Unless you've been living under an actual rock the past couple of decades, then you're pretty well acquainted with the prevalence that video games have in today's society. And I don't think that statement should be glossed over either, because video games are such an interesting medium of art mixed with entertainment that I don't think is captured anywhere else. Like seriously, think of the impact that video games have had. Just these pixels. And I don't mean the Adam Sandler movie. Film. Going from a niche innovation to cultural shift to constant hot topics of debate to this. It's just kind of funny that I can use the word gamer, and I could be meaning a world champion in esports, or your Aunt Gloria on level 4,368 of Candy Crush. You might not call that last group gamers, but they might be the most dedicated out of all of us. I mean, gaming is everywhere. YouTube even has its own separate trending tab for it. Okay, but if we're being real, the gaming tab is usually just used for YouTube to throw people on there that they don't want on the main trending tab, because you wouldn't want them taking the spotlight from this week's football highlights or music video, but it obviously always wasn't like this. There were simpler times. Some may say better times. I wouldn't say that, but you know, to each their own. Now let's go back 2 decades. A quick 20 years ago to 2003. Back in 2003, when you referred to a computer game, the idea was very different than it is today. At least for me. Because when I was growing up, I never really got computer games. I normally got games that were on sale or were at thrift stores for consoles that were 2 generations old by this point. So shout out to anyone else out there that was playing Jungle Book on the Game Boy Color in 2009, because that's all you had. So not only was I not playing games, I wasn't even playing games online either. Well, besides Flash games, but that's something else entirely. And I had an original Xbox, but you better believe I was not getting Xbox Live. So unfortunately for me, I didn't know the beauty of online trash talk until the Xbox 360.
Hey, you're just mad because I'll be able to do something with my guitar in hands that you'll never be able to achieve in your entire life, kid. So yeah, you're gay.
But due to all of this, my gaming catalog was pretty limited, but the fun I had on it was anything but. Now if you saw my video on Windows XP, I alluded to a group of games that were pre-installed on the system. So I am going to look at those, but I'm going to look at a couple of others as well. But we're starting here first. Iconic, era-defining, simplistic, loud. Why is it so loud? These are just a few of the words that I could find to describe this masterpiece. Arguably the most recognizable sitting atop this list. Okay, well technically it's like at the bottom, but it's alphabetical. Is Space Pinball, or rather its full name. 3D Pinball for Windows Space Cadet. Rolls right off the tongue. Interestingly, there's a lot more to this game than what may lie on the surface. On the outside, it simply looks like a simple pinball game with pre-rendered 3D visuals and one screen. And it is. But seriously, while it is simple and not centered, why is this goofball in a child-sized spaceship taking up so much real estate on the screen? The simplicity was intentional. 3D Pinball Space Cadet is actually a dumbed-down version of a bigger game known as Full Tilt Pinball, which was developed by Cinematronics and then published by Maxis in 1995. You can actually see that here at the bottom of the screen. They actually did them a little dirty and changed the color of the branding text to red, making it harder to read. The full game actually features not 1, not 2, not 3, but two extra boards. Compared to the Windows version. The other boards were Skullduggery, a pirate-themed board, and then Dragon's Keep, a medieval-themed board. I don't know if I'm just a big dummy dum-dum, but I didn't know there was anything more to this futuristic mechanical game of keepy-uppies. Apparently there's missions to complete.
Destroy the alien menace.
Yeah, which always just means hit the ball with the stick. But come to think of it, it's like, duh, what else are these visuals supposed to be? They're only constant flashing messages and arrows to indicate an objective. Whatever. That aside, you've got 2 flippers and a plunger to send the ball up. So, 3 buttons for control? Wrong. There are 6. Don't worry. I was totally clueless to this as well, and if you knew that already, no you didn't. You have Z and / being the flippers, and space being the plunger, which you could hold down for different power levels. And then you have X, the up arrow, and the period being controls to bump the table. Okay, I feel like that's cheating, but alright. Is that a thing? Are you allowed to just rough up the arcade cabinets? I mean, you so much as nudge or graze by one of those coin pusher games, and you're going to the slammer for 25 with no chance for parole. At least that's the vibe I got from the coin pusher that would make loud noises and flash lights at a truck stop when I was a kid. Side note, did you know old pinball machines used to look like this? Metal balls rolling down a board with nails in it? When was this made? Makes sense. Anyway, I did know about the bumping, mostly because of the penalty where the game called tilt if it detected too much movement, and it will lock up your flippers, essentially insta-losing a life, so I guess there's your penalty for cheating. That also explains the name Full Tilt, which is actually a penalty in real machines too. This mechanism will lock up and the flippers will no longer work and you will lose a life. So no, you cannot rough up the arcade machines. But man, the sounds accompanying this game. Beautiful. But for whatever reason, you're left in utter silence by default. But when you turn that music on, I actually got a little distracted playing the game for the footage. And by a little distracted, I do mean an uninterrupted 36 minutes of playing this game. I'd say it's worth it. Like, watch this refueling shot. Nailed it. Now hold on. Got it again. Now hold on. Is he gonna get it? Of course he does. Right back in. I hate when the ball drops in the middle. I'm not gonna be able to hit this ball. Card games. Count them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. 6 of those are card games. 2 of them are one game. 5 of them are online only, and I don't want to play any of them. That's a joke. I did used to think the Solitaire icon was a robot trash can, so we're going to start with that one. Solitaire's basically been around since the beginning in 1990 with Windows 3.0. Since then, it's estimated that it's most likely the most played computer game ever. Jimmy Mayer said that. He's a historian. Now, he may be a good historian, but he's not a good gamer. He's clearly not familiar with the time played section in Steam. You could probably blow that playtime out of the water with just 10 average Genshin Impact players. No, but for real, Solitaire's impact is pretty crazy. It's coming up on its 33rd birthday, which means generations now have made this computer card clicking game pastime. And keeping with the pattern, while I was recording B-roll for Solitaire, I played for 35 minutes straight. Someone needs to take away my free will. Make 4 stacks of all the cards, starting with the ace, then working up to king, 1 for each suit. In person, you've got to set this all up yourself, but thankfully it's done for us here. You can stack cards on top of one another based off the color and number, alternating from black to red, and descending down from one another, while also dealing from the stack to continue this pattern until all cards can be placed into the area up top where you make your piles. Now this is done by clicking on every card until there's no other moves possible and using all the hints and there's no other strategy. At least that's how I used to play. And that strategy is going to get you to the quickest game over that you could imagine. If by some stroke of luck you win, you are blessed with that sweet, sweet card celebration. And that concludes the knowledge I have on the digital card games. That's all I played as a kid. Let's just work our way down the list. 1 year after Solitaire, FreeCell was introduced into Windows in 1991, but wasn't really added into the mainstays of games until Windows 95. So what is this game? It sounds like the name of a bad iPhone game about a prison break. Not this. Make 4 stacks of the cards, starting with ace. Also a creepy king that watches your every move. You can stack cards on top of one another based off of color and number, alternating black and red, and descending down from one another, while also dealing from the stack to continue this pattern until all cards can be placed into the area up top where you made your piles. It's Solitaire again, but all the cards are already dealt out, and there's different tactics you use, and there's a lot more skill involved that I don't possess, so we move swiftly on. And then the next year after FreeCell, in 1992, Hearts was introduced. This works just like Spades if you're familiar, and if you're not, too bad. Okay. In short, you take turns playing hands. Yeah, so at this point in the script, I actually had no idea how to play the game. I thought I knew. I thought it played just like Spades. It doesn't. At the beginning of the game, you choose 3 cards to go into an opponent's hand, and in return, you get 3 cards from an opponent. Each hand plays out like war. The highest card wins. But you have to play within the suit. If you can't play within the suit, then it's a throwaway card. And if all you have left are hearts, then you can break hearts, because before then, hearts cannot be played. Regardless, hearts act as penalty points. So basically, you do not want to win a hand with hearts. You want to be the player at the end of the game with the least amount of hearts, while also not winning too many hands with the other cards that you have. Now in Spades, you actually make a bid before each round, and you want to meet that bid. There's no bids in hearts, but you also don't want any hearts, and I didn't understand this. But in both games, the hearts and the spades respectively are the trump cards. So the game is all about finding out which hands you can afford to take and which ones you can't. And it may very well be that I still don't understand the game. I don't know. Now there is going to be a test on this, so I hope you're taking notes. Originally included in Microsoft Plus 98, and a branch off of the original game, Spider, which is a reference to the 8 piles of cards that you end up with, is Spider Solitaire. And even though it was added in 98, it really didn't gain its popularity until Windows XP. I had no former experience in this game, and at first it seemed a bit daunting. But it works just like normal Solitaire, except it's just one suit, so you only stack by order of number. Soon enough, I was smoking at this game, winning left and right, feeling pretty good about myself. And as an added boost, I looked up the odds of a winnable hand. Okay, not bad. Well, what about... Oh. And Solitaire's like 80%? And I was playing the easiest difficulty on both. But hey, winnable doesn't mean guaranteed victory, so I'm just going to enjoy the victory screens it gives me. So I have some bad news here. I can't, connect. For some reason, I didn't foresee this issue. It's just weird to me because you have games like Reversi that didn't even need an internet connection to begin with when it was released, and these other games could be played with bots too, so I don't know, I digress. Well, I've already explained Hearts and Spades, so no worries there, but then you have Backgammon, Checkers, and Reversi, but it's kind of irrelevant anyway because I'm looking at games without internet. Moving on. I don't know why I'm humming that, that's Tetris. Minesweeper, the oldest game on the software that's strictly a video game, and not an adaptation of a real-world thing like Solitaire or Pinball. Now, Minesweeper's origins aren't so cut and dry. Some believe that Microsoft's Minesweeper that came out in 1990 is the first edition coming out with Windows 3.1, although others contest that a game called Mind Out should be credited, as it came out 7 years before it. Kurt Johnson, the guy that made Microsoft's Minesweeper, actually admitted that he was inspired by another game, but it wasn't Mind Out, and he couldn't remember what the game was. Minesweeper is visually iconic, with its gray grid and signature smiley face at the top. I always loved his look of shock and anticipation, waiting to see what lies underneath the gray exterior, as the contents may end his sad, cruel existence. But if it's all clear, he acts like the cool guy. What did you do besides worry? You didn't do any work. You're a freeloader. As the name suggests, in this game you sweep for mines in varying grid sizes. Unlike some other games on this list, this game requires keen observation, a little bit of luck, and a lot of skill. Actually, this time around, there is a lot more to it than just clicking, although you can get lucky, which is not what happened to me. I won on purpose. Each grid is laid out with a set number of mines, which the number of mines and size of the grid can be edited by you. Let's see here. That should do it. The first click is never a mine, but you can get pretty unlucky with which one you uncover, so you should be pretty safe with your second click, unless you're super unlucky. Okay, if you can manage to apparently beat the odds and click the majority of space, there we go. A selection of blocks will clear out, as well as a few having certain numbers on it. The number represents the number of mines that specific square touches, including the corners. Once you determine which square contains a mine, you're able to put a little flag on it to visually indicate, hey, don't click that one. Okay, maybe I should have clicked that one. Whenever I hear people personally talk about this era and games like this, specifically people that were younger at the time, will typically mention this game like first and remember it pretty fondly, which makes sense. It did come out a little later and is a little bit more childish than the other games on this list, but that doesn't necessarily mean it stinks. I hope. Purple Place was developed by Oberon Media for Microsoft, releasing January 30th, 2007 for Windows Vista. Right as the game boots up, you're met with some pretty great graphic work over a sunset sky in a town. So how long is this loading screen? Oh, this is a menu. Yes, just like your classic 4 for $4 or $5 Cravings box, Purple Place is a combo deal. The game boasts 3 games to explore located in these small adjacent buildings on this hill, or valley. First up is Purple Pairs. Purple Pairs is your classic matching pairs game with the objective to clear every card pair out before time runs out. There are 4 levels before you complete the game, with each level slightly increasing in difficulty, by more cards being added and similar kinds of cards being used. Pretty standard stuff. However, there are a few cards in here that can mix things up a bit. There are Joker cards that automatically find the next match to whichever card you match it with, clock cards that add more time to your timer, mixer cards that will shuffle your cards around, this card stinks, chef cards, which are a little teaser for our next game, will match up a pair of cake cards for you. It gives you the option for difficulty going in, and I'm not 8 years old, I can do this. See? Turns out the little eye tokens I've been grabbing this whole time serve the purpose of being able to take a little sneak peek at the cards for a small amount of time. But I'm a professional. I don't take shortcuts. I play with skill and I was able to clear the highest difficulty first time, and that's something to be proud of, I think. Next in the lineup, we've got Comfy Cakes. This is the game I remember the most, and the first one I think of when I think of these minigames. Being a big fan of Diner Dash and similar games, this game was right up my alley. Now, I wasn't bad at memory games like Purple Pears. I just found them boring. Like, you're gonna take me to the circus and look at pictures of performers and animals? Get the cardboard out of the way, show me the tiger! Comfy Cakes has the high-octane action we're looking for here. Okay, maybe I'm not the baker I thought I was. The main goal of this game is to match up the cakes to the one that's being shown on the screen, and move it to the end of the line. Easy enough, but if you do things in the wrong order, there is no going back. The little blue chef will come and scream at you, and then promptly waste food by throwing a perfectly good cake in the trash. You know, I liked you a lot better when you were just on a card. The harder difficulties add more steps, more layers to the cakes, and more cakes going at a time. And clearly, I am not prepared for the pressures that these little Muppet creatures face in the dessert workforce. Sorry, chef, but I have to turn in my hat. I'm nothing but a card flipper. Maybe I can find some redemption in the final building. Finally, we have Purple Shop. And I'm not exaggerating when I say the hardest setting on this game is harder than all of the games on this list. Full stop. In the Purple Shop, your goal is to guess the correct combination for the outfit and features of the mystery purple behind the curtain. Wait, are the creatures called purples? I don't know. What is a purple? I don't know. I'm calling those guys purples. You have different kinds of features and style choices, as well as different colors for each option. On beginner, you have 3 colors for 3 traits. In case you need the math for that, that's 27 different possible combinations. Intermediate jumps it up a bit with 4 colors with 4 traits to choose from, leading to 256 possible combinations. These levels aren't too bad, as when you get a trait incorrect, the game will let you know which of these items you selected was correct. However, advanced level tosses you straight into the deep end. To be expected with a pattern, this level adds another color and trait, which makes 5 of each. However, that means the possible combinations go from a nice 256 to a cool 3,125. And I can't even count that high. To make matters worse, you've got to guess without the game telling you exactly which of your options was incorrect, just that one of them is wrong in some way. Also, do it in 13 guesses. Go. Well, they don't call me Mr. Perfect Purple Clothes Picker and Characteristic Guesser for nothing. I own this town. Or industrial complex. Let's go! I actually found this game pretty mentally engaging, but I've got to admit, when it was set to the hardest difficulty, I unironically found myself a little bit stressed out at times. I can't let the purples down, look at him! Except for the chef, that guy's a monster. I didn't want to work on your dumb cake assembly line anyway. Before looking into this game, I actually didn't think it was as niche as it was. That is, of course, if you're okay with the use of the word niche being used to describe something released on the most popular operating system of all time, then it was niche. But its lifespan was pretty short, first debuting on the XP Tablet Edition, which that was a thing. I mean, just look at the Wikipedia page for the pinball game. I mean, even for Purple Place. Now, Inkball. Also, it was only truly accessible for 2 years if you kept up with Windows updates. If you didn't have Windows XP Tablet PC Edition, great name, by the way, guys. It released to the general public in 2007 with Windows Vista. Although you could still get it on Windows XP, it just wasn't a pack-in. But if you were to update your system to the new shiny Windows 7 in 2009, they remove it from your system. My initial notes for Inkball were as follows. Inkball, pinball hole draw. Good job, gets the point across. But I'm actually only mostly being sarcastic. The goal of this game is to get the correct color ball into the correct color hole. That's kind of it. The balls follow Newton's first law to a T. They will continue to stay in motion and collide with walls and other balls and maintain that trajectory until colliding again. Now you can draw any shape you want, but it kind of doesn't matter and you'll end up just drawing a simple line anyway, because the second a ball even makes any form of contact to the shape disappears and sends the ball flying. It's simple enough, but honestly this felt more like a chore than a fun experience. Not exactly a fun time having to herd and babysit these circles and get them into darker circles in these square rooms made up of gray blocks. It's not for me. But hey, speaking of gray blocks, the last stop, and certainly not the least of these gray block worlds, is Chip's Challenge. I'm not entirely sure the popularity of this game, but it was a big hit for me personally, and at least one of my other friends at school in the computer lab. Actually, come to think of it, I don't recall any conversations or mentions of this game outside of like 2 or 3 people in my life. So if you're uninformed, here you go. Chip's Challenge is a block-pushing adventure puzzle game with increasing difficulty every level, as most games have. Now this is the first game on this list, and honestly the first that I've heard of, that was actually developed for console first and then ported to PC. But I'm sure there are others, it's just the first one I heard of. It was originally developed by Epyx, the game company that mainly released games on the NES, such as winter and summer games. They developed the game for the failed Atari Lynx before being ported to Windows 3.1 and released it in the Microsoft Entertainment Pack in 1992, and then promptly released again in the Best of Microsoft Entertainment Pack in 1995. So you play as Chip McCallahan, described as a nerd who has met Melinda the Mental Marvel in the science school lab and must now navigate through her clubhouse in order to prove himself and get accepted into the Bitbusters Club. I don't care. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this port of the game carries the entire plotline or not, but I sure wouldn't have guessed that. The game is tile-based, and you move a single tile at a time, moving from square to square to solve puzzles with zero animation. This is actually not the case with the other ports. There's a lot more fluid animations in the previous ports, but they had to dumb it down a little bit for Windows. You navigate Chip through each level, collecting enough computer chips to open the exit and go to the next level. Open doors are the right color keys, teleporting, go past thieves, collect Magno shoes to walk on force floors, fire shoes to walk on fire, flippers for water, ice skates for, cleats, okay? Cleats to walk on ice. You may be wondering, where is the music? Oh, does this game have you covered? Count them. This game has two songs. Oh, what's that? Oh, you think they should be longer than 30 seconds? Too bad. The first song sounds like a cheap remake of a theme from an NCIS knockoff made on like a flip phone app. And this second one sounds like I've just wandered into Toontown HQ to receive a new mission. Now, I do want to mention Jez Ball as an honorable mention, as it was released in the Best of pack with Chip's Challenge. The game is pretty simple. Balls bounce around, and the goal is to remove as many gray blocks as possible while keeping the balls in the space and not cutting them off. And what is with gray blocks in these games? I guess it's easy and it's neutral, but come on now. There's got to be some lore connecting them all together. And I feel some people might be up in arms if I don't at least mention Ski Free. It was released alongside Chip's Challenge in that Microsoft Entertainment Pack, but I have no experience in this game. Looks like a lot of fun though. Now, these weren't all the games that I played, and I'm sure it's not all the games that you played either, but I figured it was a pretty good sampling of games that were internet free and were such a staple in so many people's lives. And I'll have memories that will last forever. Not with these pixels, but with these. Thank you so much for watching.